Hello again, it is 48 Sharks. Like, subscribe, and comment because we're getting to 1,000 whether we, believe we can or not, because we believe we do, so we will. Moving on. So, this video is titled The Staircase. Mainly because I asked my dad, and a lot of this comes from him, the stories from this video. So, I essentially just kind of was like, yo, what do you want the video to be called? And he said The Staircase. And I'm like, The Staircase? But why? Why The Staircase? And he was adamant about it. And, it makes sense. So, here we go. Here is the allegory of the staircase. So, again, hit the subscribe button, hit notify so you get this shit every time I upload something. So, my dad, I asked for his consent before I spoke on his behalf to speak on his life. And this guy, man, this guy, my dad is my fucking role model. And when he was a young kid, the years are rough, but there was one point where his memory was a little foggy, kind of, about to start processing itself, and evolving. So you could remember some things long term, but not everything. And so this must have been around 2 or 3. He was kidnapped, and then I don't know if this is another event, but then I just remember him running. Remember him telling me that he's running through a briar patch, which a briar patch, if you don't know, is fucking thorny as fuck bushes. And again, this still, whether it happened before or after, is within the range of time where his memory still wasn't fully developed. So this was still probably before 4 years old. And he's running through this briar patch and getting all these cuts, just running away from these men, And now all of a sudden the next memory he has are these old people that are, he's in a sink, and they're washing all of this blood off of him. And then again, the next memory is he's back with his mom. Those were 2 whole ass events before 4. And then as he grew up, he had 2 sisters and a brother, and he was the oldest, and he was abused physically a lot. Not only was my grandfather on my dad's side really abusive, but he, the whole family didn't find out that he actually worked for the CIA until 5 or 10 years after his death, or I forgot how much time after. Because a lot of the people that my dad's parents were friends with, their husband, the wives' husbands, were also in the CIA, and there was my grandma and 2 or 3 of her other friends that were in the same area, and some CIA agents came up to the house, knocked on the door, said that your husband worked for the CSI or the CIA, and he was a spy, and blah blah blah. Didn't really say much, just kind of let him know, I guess, as disclosure, and that was it. Never given any information or any other feedback on that. But it happened, and it didn't just happen for us. It happened for other families back then. So, when you take into account the fact that my dad had moved to, I think 23 different times before 8th grade, it kind of makes sense, you know. And my dad remembers his dad, my grandfather, always just leaving the house with a briefcase. Never packed any clothes, never packed anything, just he had a briefcase and he left with it. And then that was it. Um, but yeah, so as he grew up, he, had to deal with this spook. My dad had to deal with this spook who was his dad. And, obviously, fuck, man. And he was also in the Korean War. And he tried to fashion lampshades and earrings and other jewelry with the bones of the dead Korean soldiers during the Korean War. My grandfather was a sick fuck. But the story's not really about him, it's about my dad. And what I've gained from my dad. And so, he's going through his whole life, he's had this happen, he's had that happen. This is his dad, and then the dad, my dad's dad, my grandfather, starts to abuse the family. Starts to, hurt the mom, starts to hurt the brother, starts to hurt the two sisters. And my dad, again, being the oldest, this might as well be a part 3 video. Your parents are fucking superheroes until you realize they just want to be Clark Kent. These are the stories where I always heard of my dad being Superman, not Clark Kent. So, my dad, being the oldest one, took care of his family. He took care of his sisters and his brother, and he put his fucking foot down against his own father. He broke the chain and annihilated all that bullshit. And, my grandfather kept coming at my dad, fucking coming at him, because fuck, he's alive, he's a spook. Don't fuck with me, boy. Do not fuck with me, boy. And, so my dad ended up lifting weights, and there was this one point where my grandfather went to go throw a punch, and my dad caught it. And that was the first time that my dad can remember seeing fear in his dad's eyes. Like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't fuck with him, because he's strong, and I couldn't, and at that point he was getting old. This is already beyond 8th grade. This is like high school, maybe past high school. And so like when my dad's 23, or actually no, so when my dad's like 14, his first job was working at a country club, is a bag carrier. And I think because of that, he had the opportunity to learn how to use a floor machine. And because of that opportunity, at 14 years old, of learning how to use a floor machine, and not only how to use it, but to use it effectively, there was another job that came along at another country club, I think, where he was actually able to, because people were asking, like, oh man, we need this job done. We don't know anybody that has a, floor cleaning experience. And my dad, I think, maybe still 14, maybe 16 at this point, spoke up, and he's like, I know how to do it. So, yeah, it was probably 14. So then they hired him. And, he got really good at cleaning stuff. And he had his ups and downs, and he had his weird jobs, and he had his off times, and, he was a hippie, and he had all of his times. And, he just kept doing his thing, and all the things that he did, he gained experience. So he would be able to have that confidence and speak on behalf of that. All of that, plus eventually later on, his dad almost essentially totally bailing the fuck out after he divorced my grandma on my dad's side. My grandmother did not know how to spend money at all. She didn't know how to protect it, actually. She would spend it. She knew how to spend it as fuck, but she couldn't budget it. And my dad found out how in debt they were. And so my dad worked and busted his ass to fix the debt, to fix the bullshit. he was like, you need to fucking move in with me, and I need to take care of you because you have made your mistakes. Even though you are my fucking parent, you know, dad really fucked shit up. You need to fucking trust me. And so my dad took care of the family, man. And at 26 years old, he lost his leg in a devastating fucking motorcycle collision. I'm 30. So that would mean 4 years ago is when my dad got in his fucking collision and lost his leg. And the story of that is that he was driving home from work one day because he had started a business by that time, a cleaning business. And it was doing great. It was thriving. You know, I forgot how much money it was worth these days. It was probably close to like 500,000. The first one, the first one that he did. And you know, he's coming home late one night, and this fucking drunk driver around like 3 a.m. or so fucking just clips him while he's crossing the intersection. And my dad goes flying into this backyard, somebody's backyard, and he's hit, he's mangled, his legs are fucked, and he's sitting there in agonizing pain for like what he remembers to be like about 3 or 4 hours, because again, he got hit around 3, and the backyard, the people's backyard he was in, the male owner of that house was a fucking doctor. So when that doctor woke up at like 7 a.m. and saw my dad laying in his fucking backyard, he's like, holy fuck, we need to do something about this now. So, you know, I wouldn't say I'm atheist, I wouldn't say I'm agnostic, I would say I'm ambivalent, and I'm very contested about how I feel about, you know, whether there's a God or not. But, you know, I have been very convinced lately where you can be blessed, and that doesn't have to be by a God. That could be by the universe. That could be by chance. And God, my dad was fucking blessed to land out of everybody's backyard, out of everybody who would have woken up late or early, you know, been home or not. He landed in a fucking doctor's backyard who woke up only a long 3 hours after he had been in the yard. And so then it's kind of a swift, quick level of events that happens in my dad's memories. And I won't elaborate, but essentially, you know, kind of like the movies, you black in and out. He's in the backyard for 3 hours just suffering. And then he's in an ambulance. And then he's at a hospital. And then he's blacked out. And then he's awake, and doctors are saying, we need to cut off your foot. We need to amputate it right now, otherwise you're going to die. Do you want us to cut it off, or do you want to die? And he had no choice. He had to agree and be like, yeah, cut it off, fuck. So then he wakes back up. The infection's spreading. We have to cut a little bit more of your leg off. Do you agree, or do you want to die? Well, I don't want to die. Hey, so we're going to have to take most of your leg. It's going to be several inches below your knee, but if we amputate it there, then you'll be fine. Do you agree, or do you want to die? Again, I don't want to die. Your bone has developed bone spurs. We're going to have to go ahead and put you under again and shave the bone spurs off of your bone. So we're going to have to flay you open and shave the fucking bone spurs. And he had bone spurs several fucking times after the times that he amputated his fucking leg. And then even after the bone spurs stopped and his leg healed, they fucking came back. And he had to go under again, you know? So he was essentially out of it at 26 years old until he was like 27 and a half, man. What a fucking... what a piece of shit of an experience. And so now he's home, and he's recovering, and he's learning how to use his prosthetic leg, and he has to use crutches, and he lives in the basement because this is up north in Virginia. And at this point, this happens, so the family has to help him. But because they're working, he has to find a way how to get the fuck up the stairs to cook himself food. He has to find a way to go upstairs to take a fucking shit and a piss. He has to go upstairs to find out how he's gonna do whatever the fuck he's gonna do outside of the basement. And this is at 26, man. I mean, I'm 30, and I'm freaking out about my own life, and I'm freaking out like, fuck, man. I got, I know I'm on Social Security disability, and I got my disability with like anxiety and panic and shit, but it's like, that's nothing compared to losing a leg and still having to deal with all of that, right? And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't fucking matter. It's irrelevant. Part 2 of the video series. Don't compare another human to another human, man. I just think about he was 26, man. He was 26. He had a business going. He had so much going for him. He was in such control of his fucking life. And then some fucking random idiot, bro, just fucked it. Or did he? Maybe if that guy never would have crashed into my dad, I never would have been born. Because after the accident, and after my dad learned how to get up those fucking stairs, and after he learned how to get a fucking job, he created another fucking business yet again. For like fucking 48 shocks. Again. My father again created a business yet again. LeBun. And that shit was thriving, man. That shit was thriving and fucking vibing. And he had crews going out cleaning major fucking banks. Multi-level office fucking building banks. Like, very secure shit. And he would go out and he owned this business, man. It was a point where he had so many checks coming in that he just didn't cash them because he didn't have enough time to cash them. And, this is all after he had already lost his leg. So not only did he lose a limb and suffer a major depression, because factually, scientifically, and psychologically, you will experience a major depression upon the loss of a large limb. Bone, I should say. I mean, and not only those two things, just the fact of the abuse and all of the shit. His story, man. So, now I'm growing up, and I'm hearing, as I'm growing up, the stories of his life, because I want to hear about my dad's life, and I want to know about what he went through, and, as I'm getting older, I'm hearing these stories, and as I'm becoming of age enough to hear what he's gone through, I'm developing this whole ideal of how he's like this fucking superhuman fucking, again, a Superman in my head. Like, how does somebody, how does somebody go through all of that and come out having a business that is another business which is successful after having lost your leg? At this point now you're 28, and then you meet my fucking mother with one leg. Like, I've always thought that was one of the most bad fucking ass things about my dad. Swagger fucking sexy fucking Fabiano fucking confidence as fuck, dude. He hired my fucking mom, and they ended up falling for each other, or I think he ended up actually like meeting her and falling for her before he hired her or some shit. But again, like, most people would be like, being with somebody, that's missing a limb is a burden. It's like, no, dude, fuck that. It's not. That's such an advantage because that person's gonna be so much more fucking lit, dude. Like, a human is not their limbs, you know, and drifting over onto the mental side, a human is not their mental fucking capability, dude. You know, it's just shit is different. So, you know, at this point for my dad, you know, now he's with my mom, and then he has me and my sister, and now we're born. And so as I'm growing up, and again, you know, as I'm coming of age, I'm hearing these stories, and I'm hearing the struggle that he went through, and I'm hearing all of this stuff, and I always compare it to myself. I compare it to myself, and I'm like, why did I not work it when I was 14? You know, like, I mean, my dad had already gone through a lot of shit by the time he was 14. How come I wasn't able to get a job at 14? You know, how come I wasn't able to start a business at 23? How come I wasn't able to find somebody before I was, you know, 30 that I wanted to marry? You know, I would always compare myself to him. And that's like, again, that's like comparing a human to a Kryptonian. You can't. It's fucking irrelevant, dude. Totally different shit. Totally different species. But, again, in part 2, if our parents are superheroes, are we not their super children? So for me, when I was 4, you know, I wasn't kidnapped, but my parents went through a divorce. You know, I wasn't molested, but, you know, I had to deal with 26 fucking different people living in my house after my parents had separated, and that shit was turbulent as fuck, man. I saw a lot of people as fucking mother figures, and I saw a lot of people as fucked up mother figures, and I saw there was a lot of shit, man. You know, there was a lot of shit. We're helpers, and we help, and we do what we can until we can't, you know. And unfortunately, I saw a lot of good and a lot of bad experiences growing up, and unfortunately, it happened during very significant traumatic portions of my life. And because the divorce that my parents went through, mainly because I'm not gonna talk about them, and my mom, you know, things were just so much more difficult, you know. And that was kind of like my grandfather being in the CIA. It was a very complicated, mixed up thing that you couldn't really fuck with. It was just kind of happening, and you had no say. And, you know, then, you know, when I was 14, then I did actually get kidnapped, but it wasn't by strangers, but it was by my mom and my stepdad, against my will, against my dad's will, fucking hella illegally. And, you know, we just never contested it back then because we weren't sure if we could. We weren't sure if we could win because, you know, I'm not even gonna fucking say his name, but the stepdad fucking, you know, would always blackmail not just me but my stepdad, but not just me but my dad. And he knows the top fucking lawyer in Florida, and he still holds that shit against us. So there's nothing we could ever do against him. So knowing that, also, you know, like at 14, when the voices were starting, and when just all of the delusion and psychosis and pretty much fucking everything happened, man. When all of that happened, you know, I had to deal with that. You know, I wasn't able to confide in my dad's house anymore. You know, there would always be an adjusting phase where after we came from my mom's house, my sister and I, and got to my dad's house, there would be like a day or two where we were just like kind of zonked out and had to adjust. And then the next day or two after we went to my mom's house, because it was like every other week we would switch. So like dad and mom. You know, the first 2 days of living with my mom, there would be adjustment. It was torturous, dude. It was emotional abuse over there. It really was. You know, my mom tried to do her best. You know, I guess she tried to give us the most advantages that she could. Maybe, I don't know. Because she definitely ended up regretting her choices in the end. Like, she definitely wished that she would have never, like, married him in the first place. Um, but yeah, she's gone. And, so yeah, you know, that's something that happened to me, but also my dad along in his life. And that was about like 10 years ago. So I'm still growing up. And you know, I'm still seeing my dad live his life and my sister live her life, and me trying to define and discover what my life looks like and means. And you know, there was a lot of regression and a lot of suppression that I've you know, pretty much fucking perfected, that I'm trying to undo. And it's you know, I would say I regret it, but it's something I did, and it was self-preservation. And you know, as long as, like, you know, I'm trying my best, I'm alive, I'm not dead, and I can still undo everything that has ever happened to me. And so you know, the whole point is, you know, again, the full circle before we hit 30 minutes, the title of the video, The Staircase. I always think about my dad after he lost his leg, and because his room was the basement. When everybody went to work, imagine being 26. Imagine being any age. Imagine being any age and being alone. And this is the first time you're home, the first day you're home, and you have to figure out how to climb the flight of stairs. Otherwise, you're not going to eat. Otherwise, you're not going to drink. Otherwise, you're not going to have shit. You know, are you going to scoot up on your butt? Are you going to try the crutches? Are you going to fall down? Are you going to tumble? You know, and it's like, you know, maybe I don't, the realization, and again, the full circle, the title of the video, you know, the fucking staircase. Maybe I don't have to suffer through the staircase. Maybe because that was his suffering, maybe that's irrelevant. And it is. It is irrelevant for mine. I don't need to have a staircase experience, because maybe the whole kidnapping and hearing voices and losing my mind was my staircase. And maybe I did have crutches. They were just mental crutches that I was, or I don't know, you know, like, just because his story is so extravagant doesn't mean or demean that I don't have my own, or that mine means any less. And again, it all comes back to fucking part 2, dude. Like, if our parents are super parents, and if now they just want to be Clark Kent and Diana, it doesn't matter if they want to be normal anymore. We are their children, so by default, does that not make us super children? You don't have to lose a leg and learn how to use crutches to climb a flight of stairs to be Superman. Maybe all you need to do is hear some voices and, you know, learn to be a positive motherfucker. Maybe it's something totally different. And to say that what you've gone through to get where you are means any less than anything I have said this entire video is bullshit. What you've gone through is what you've gone through. That is validated 100%. And, you know, if you're not lying to yourself, you know that I don't need to validate that for you. So, you know, we're fucking powerful, dude. We are our own superheroes now. We are capable of lifting other people up and inspiring them, motivating them, and allowing them, not necessarily allowing them, but like just, yeah, more so, again, inspiring, igniting the flame in them to realize, again, it's not about us, it's about them. It wasn't about our parents, it was about us. It's not about their grandparents, it was about them. It's not about their, it's not about their grandparents, it's about our parents. It's not about our parents, it's about us. It's not about us, it's about our children. You know, we all have our own stories, dude. We all have our own stories. You know, my fucking dad's staircase is not my staircase. My voices are not your voices. We all got our own shit, dude. Like, subscribe, comment, and fucking hit the little, ring my bell, ring my bell, for the notifications for when I post more videos like this. Thanks.
Subscribe, subscribe.